Hello!
Hi.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the brand new dojo. Howdy, 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 howdy.
I don't know. It looks very bland at the moment. I think we need to put some more stuff in there.
Yeah, there's a big white wall behind me at the moment that we're gonna put some more stuff here. I mean, the stuff is technically there right now. It's sort of all on the floor behind me at the moment, and it's going to go up there. We have plans for this. I have plans for that as well. You're not going to see that wall most of the time, um, but I have plans for that wall so that I have something cool to look at. And then possibly I sort of have plans for this space as well, which you might see.
Ooh.
But we don't want to see it.
Tough.
But that's where I'm going to be standing. They can't look over there. They'll realize we live together.
I mean, I have plans, vague plans, but plans that are building that there's going to be some more live action bits that are going to happen in this room, but from a different camera angle.
Gasp.
With people what are nearby.
Ooh.
Which you two both fit that bill.
So Sean.
But yes, hello and welcome to my new place. And well, I mean, to be fair, this space also does have plans for people like Sean who don't live nearby, but that won't be on video because we don't monetize people when they're sleeping.
Kidnapping.
Yes. We do also have plans for the lighting because at the moment it's one singular light in the middle of the room and one singular ring lamp here that is designed to be a very small ring lamp. Well, it's a very small ring lamp. It's not enough for a main light. So there's going to be, come Tuesday this week, there's going to be another light somewhere around here. And I'm going to have all three of my monitors back again. And it's going to be wonderful and everything. But for tonight and tomorrow and Monday night, you're just going to have to put up with it being a little bit dimmer. Also, hopefully, with all of this talking that we've been doing, how do we sound? Because my microphone was very unhappy with it suddenly being uprooted and moved. It's also coming in from the other angle. You can't actually see it because it's just out of the shot, but it's now on this side, whereas it used to come in from over here.
I was going to say that you do sound differently, but not in a negative way, I'd say.
Good.
If anything, more to the right than usual.
Sounds good and balanced, I think, says Sean. Good. John is the clearest. Good. Yes, that's how it should be. I should be very clear, and the others are also here.
Goodness. Wait, we're not clear? Why are we not clear?
Also,
have you not put us through a pane glass window yet? Sorry. Yes.
No.
Oh my god, you killed Kenny, you bastards. Also, I'm assuming that is Geoff that has just arrived, did it?
No.
It is, but he is mute. He is muted.
Hello.
Hello. I've sent you a Twitch invite so that you can join us with your face.
Is on it.
Cool.
As a quick answer to Rogue, no.
I will scroll back down and see what that is an answer to. But first of all, I just have to say thank you, Rogue, for resubbing for 28 months. You are on a 28-month streak. It's the John Dojo Casa House. It is. This is the brand new dojo room. There is a sign coming.
Did you not bring the on-air sign along with you?
Oh, the on-air sign is up. It's outside. I didn't actually turn it on. I should have turned it on tonight. I'll turn it on
All the
tomorrow
people
night.
in your... No, Sean!
Let's
How
just...
will they know you're an ant?
I know, it's dreadful. I should hook it up to just...
Uh-huh.
I should just hook it up to OBS.
That would be pretty cool.
If I could just have a button that's like turn on the on-air light, but
That needs to be like the last part of the trailer where it's literally just going to be your hand going over and turning on the light.
to be fair, we can film that. Yeah.
I'd hope so. I mean, it's already in your flat. So
The light is here. Cameras are here. We have the technology for this.
I'm just now imagining it just a little POV of you making a cuppa, running through, hitting the button, running over to the computer. Hello.
Right. Let's begin. Let's begin the stream with a little bit. Well, that bit of housekeeping out of the way. Now that we have the house. Let us do the council housekeeping, which is to say the couple of things that we have discussed a little bit. One is following up from Tanny's comments in the last stream about us having some things in the setting that aren't streamed as we create them so that there are surprises. I have come up with an idea for something that I want to have as my surprise, and I want the three of you to come up with your own ideas, be it a location, an NPC, something that is in the world that you have seeded in there for players to stumble across during the course of gameplay. We aren't going to discuss it on the stream. We aren't going to discuss it even amongst yourselves.
I was wondering if maybe we could twist this a little bit further.
Okay.
Okay, so if everyone is up for this, if everyone of the council is up for this, you have to create one something, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's particularly a special NPC who's going to have quite a significant play, whether it's going to be a item of grand value or whatnot. But effectively, you create a few things, but one of them is the special one. The rest are just regular things, which can disappear into the world, because the whole point in my mind is, rather than us just creating 4 things, be done with it. If we create a nice ensemble of things so that it's not a case you come across something and you've never come across it before and think, oh, this must be something we've come across. Because let's face it, they're all going to have a flair of us to them. And it just makes that little bit of, is this the special thing from that one?
I think having more than one thing is a sensible plan, because we're going to need a lot of things in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't call everyone John like last time.
We do every so often. But yes,
we certainly do whenever we forget the NPC's name.
Basically what I want to say is I want at least one thing from each of you. I'm not going to say only one thing, but at least one.
Okay, I've got a lot of work to do. I'll be back later. I'll see you.
Not now. Come back. Obviously, the other part of this is you can't keep secrets from me because I'm the GM and I need to. Unfortunately, I need to know them so that they will appear in the game. Otherwise, they're just things that you've thought of. So, just tossing that one out there for nothing. The other thing I would like to discuss with the council is I would like to set us a deadline. Rogue, yeah, send me secrets, give me thoughts, but these people's thoughts are much I'm not going to say more likely to get in, but I don't really have a
But we know
follow-up to
where
that.
he lives, so, you know.
At least 2 out of these people have actually been here so far.
Yeah. And I'm very close.
Yes.
Heck, I've been helping move in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm very close.
Sean and Ben are actually in the other rooms as well.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them. We were trying to hide that fact earlier.
God, they don't need to know that this is what Jeff's airing cupboard looks like.
Yes. Rogue
Yes. Better not to ask. So one thing I want to discuss is I want to give us a deadline.
Yes.
Because one of the important things I feel with this is that we want to get it ready to play in. And we're going to need to do a bit of play testing with some of the things, especially some of the things we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to need to play test them before they are ready for full-on games. And so I want to just throw in a deadline for us to aim for. And I would like to suggest that we have a world that can be play tested by the middle of this year and is ready for games by the end of the year.
I like that as an idea.
So-
I would like to throw in a suggestion as a potential suggestion anyway, which is to have this as something which we can bring in fully, like you say, for the sake of the end of this year, but we can do its first official game into the new year.
Yep. I mean, my thought is it's not going to be finished at the end of the year when we start playing in it.
But it'd be playable.
But something that is playable, something that we have enough of together that we can make characters, that we can play game, that we can... that there is a game there, and there is enough world there for a game to occur in 12 months' time. Does that sound acceptable to the council?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No! Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so coming...
I'll take that as a maybe.
I tend to ignore
Coming-
Sean's nose.
Coming in 2034.
So coming 2025, the Tamrinor campaign setting.
And in 2052, the Tamrinor campaign setting, Sean edition.
Coming 2035, the written copybook. Okay, so with those things out of the way, let's get down to the gritty bit, the main meat of tonight's session, as it is. I want to discuss magic and homebrew. I want to discuss coming 2269, Tamrinor, the complete encyclopedia, says Rogue.
Yes. Tonight we are defeating the Huns.
So I want to discuss...
2095, the second edition.
Yes. I want to discuss magic. I want to discuss...
The Gathering.
It's a card game. It's a really good card game. I think we should all get into that, and let's stop playing D&D.
Yep. Okay.
All
let's
right,
do
well,
that.
that's the end of this stream. Thank you very much for
Right,
joining us.
that's an option.
No, I want to discuss magic, and I've got some ideas and some things of what I want to talk about, and I'm gonna then throw it out to everybody else to weigh in on things. The primary two easy things, I think, are there are two homebrew rules that we play with at the moment that I would like to continue in Tamrinor.
Cool.
Both of them taken from the Taldore campaign guide. One of them is a bonus action to drink potions.
Yes.
I think the rapid quaffing
using that,
rules just make sense. It's a bonus action to down a potion yourself, or an action to force feed it to someone else.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
The other one is the resurrection rules, where you need to have a resurrection ritual if you need to revive someone.
Can you just run through that for those of us not familiar? Because the rule about potions is self-explanatory, but can you just run through the res rules, rules, please?
1 second, my PDF isn't to hand, but my handbook is. 1 moment.
Okay.
How does that work? I'm at my computer. I don't have access to my PDF, but this book I do.
I suppose it depends on where the PDF is electronically. It could be on the phone.
Could be on the phone.
It's on a hard drive that I haven't yet pulled out of the computer box.
See, that's why I've started storing all my PDFs on my OneDrive, so that I have access to them everywhere.
I should really do that. I really should. But conveniently, having just moved, I know where all the books are.
In a pile over there.
That is handy.
In a box over there. Optional campaign rules, page 212.
And technically, you were right there, Sean. It's just wrapped with cardboard.
Yeah. Like a thing packed in a box is just a pile wrapped in cardboard.
So the resurrection rule that we have been working under in our current D&D games since the end of the Death Curse is titled Fading Spirits. It's the house rule that they use in the Critical Role live stream to increase the emotional stakes of bringing back people from the dead, because it should be difficult.
Which I argue it shouldn't be difficult, but it should be something. It makes
Costly.
it so death.
It should be a cost.
Oh, God, yeah, it should be costly.
It shouldn't be like with death how it is in the standard rules. It's death eventually becomes a point where death doesn't matter.
Yes.
Like you can just go, oh yeah, so and so got his head torn off by a fucking Umber Hulk. Yeah, he's better now. It's like
Rogues asked a question in chat. Again, I think it might be useful to actually say what the rule is.
So this is the rule. If magic is used to bring the character back from the dead, everyone present becomes part of a resurrection ritual. Up to 3 characters present for the ritual contribute to the ritual by attempting to call their ally's spirit back. This could involve delivering a stirring speech, playing a song from their shared childhood, goading a rival back with a display of sword skills, confessing your undying love for that person, anything that you feel would be particularly useful. Each participating character makes an ability check related to what it is that they are attempting to do for the ritual. The GM decides what check is appropriate based on what they are contributing, and then sets a DC that is somewhere between 10 and 20, typically around DC 15. For example, praying to a fallen paladin's god might be a religion check, and it might be easier than, say, shouting at your dead friend's corpse to come on, sit the fuck up. Which might be an intimidation check.
How else is a barbarian supposed to do it?
Well, I know. If the
image of the bard basically saying to each of them, every companion who goes down, you are my one true love. You are my one true love. No, you are my one true.
It starts to grate on you after a while. If there is role playing in a particularly touching way, you might get a bonus or an advantage on the check. After all of the characters' contributions have been completed, the GM rolls a final res check with no modifier. The base DC of this is 10, but this is modified in a number of ways. First of all, the DC increases by 1 for each time that character has returned to life. So it steadily gets harder and harder to res someone. It is reduced by 3 for each successful contribution, and it is increased by 1 for each failed contribution. If the check is successful, the character's soul returns to their body, if the soul is willing, as usual. If the check fails, the soul does not return, and the character is permanently unable to be resurrected.
I do like that.
There is the slight difference that Revivify, because Revivify is a quick spell and designed to restore life very quickly to someone.
Yeah, and very soon after they die.
Very soon after the person has died. The caster is the only one to make a check. It is a DC of 10 plus 1 for every time the character has returned to life previously. But if they fail, the soul doesn't get lost forever. So if they fail the Revivify spell, they can still take the body to a bigger place and do the better ritual later on. It's just you're not going to get that guy back in the battlefield.
Okay. Once again, I still like that as an idea. I would also like to place if maybe there is a difficult magic of sorts. So that's the reason why you can take them off to a particular citadel and then would be able to potentially resurrect your friend. So long as they haven't, well, left a particular plane of existence, shall we say. So, should they completely fail in the field, thanks to the ritual, plus also giving you the other risk that if you wait and manage to take your friend with you, you could potentially get them healed for a huge cost at a place which does it professionally. Or you can place the risk because you don't quite have the money to do so and you feel like you need to.
Well, I think the idea with this is if you revivify is that sort of very quick check and you can then go on and do it. If you fail the longer ritual, that person has moved over. I
would also place in a thing with the Revivify that it's a non-permanent thing, but it does it for now.
I don't like that idea.
No.
Because
I was
the
only
entire
gonna play.
point brings
Oh
you
no,
to
no.
life. It's like, if it's like you're bringing to life and then they're just going to cark it again, it makes no point to the spell.
You might as well just go, oh, I'm going to just raise you as a zombie.
Yeah.
Effectively, what I meant was more along the lines that until you can get to a person who can make it permanent.
Like triage, then, isn't it? Like, you sort them out for the immediate, then you get them proper help later.
Exactly. They get a ticking
then-
clock of 2 weeks or something like that. Which had also made the ritual harder.
I'm still not liking it.
Yeah, I think the idea with this is I feel that this is enough to make it harder.
If you do the whole ticking clock, it makes it just even more hard. Like if you're in like a campaign like Tomb of Annihilation, where you're in the middle of nowhere for the majority of the game, then that person's fucked.
Okay, slightly different take then. Does Revivify tell you how many hit points they come back with?
1.
Well, that answers that question. So it's already,
Yeah, okay,
immediate
that's
thing.
fair.
Yeah, they need help. Yeah. It's not like they're back to full strength immediately.
Yeah.
There is still healing and treatment required. So yeah, I think that like balances it out, Ben.
No, that's a fair point. Also,
Totally.
Revivify wouldn't do anything in Tomb of Annihilation. It literally stops you from doing that side of things.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like just a campaign where you might be roaming the middle of nowhere for months, and there isn't,
I appreciate what you mean there. I do get what you're saying. Effectively, even in that case, it's a case of, well, in which case we only got a time limit. Do we go back or do we carry on?
yeah.
But all the same, I do get your point of view. And once again, them coming back with minimal health is... It levels things out, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm quite
Either
ready to
way-
drop that idea.
Either way, like technically the Revivify is technically the harder option because it's only the one spellcaster with an ever increasing DC, whereas you've got the bigger spells which take longer, but everyone can help with. So,
Well, true, but also everyone could make that infinitely harder as well. Just to say, you get a whole party come in there and the party fails again and again and again, then that's all negative numbers are making.
Well, you only
worse.
get 3 people's assistance, so you've kind of got one with that. You've got to pick the people that are going to pass their challenges. You don't want to say, oh, 3 people can do this. We're just going to keep going until we get.
Oh, I misunderstood what you said. I thought you literally meant the entire party. I was like,
No,
oh,
you get.
Well, that really.
You get 3 people that get a chance to give a hand, and they either make it easier or harder.
Okay, fair enough. In which case, yeah, that's not too difficult, too bad. It doesn't destroy the efforts and such like that, so that's fine.
So another option of those 2 are ones we are currently using in both of the big campaigns. Both Rime of the Frost Maiden and Mad Mage are using both of those rules. One that I've seen, and I want people's thoughts on it of whether we add it or not, is one that I've seen that is when you've run out of spell slots, allowing you to take a level of exhaustion to cast spells.
I do like the idea, to be fair.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Why not cast from hit points?
That is a thing I'm wondering about.
It's another option, but I think that when it comes down to once you get up to a high enough level, being a caster, it becomes a null point of it doesn't really matter. Just Tell you
Oh
what,
no,
hit
that's
points,
true
take
actually,
my hit.
because spells don't have an actual mana value, so
Yeah. Whereas if you make it an exhaustion point, it sort of
Right.
levels up with you as you go by. So
that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. So since you're using exhaustion as spell slots, okay, that makes perfect sense.
So
Sorry.
basically,
Even like lowliest guy, like a wizard, will in the end have enough hit points to be able to just tank any spell that way.
oh
Yeah.
god, yeah.
I mean,
Especially
basically
if I knew that was the case, I'd be literally building a character to try and get as many hit points as possible just to do exactly that.
Yeah.
sort of the way that the system would work is that for each level of exhaustion you take, you can cast a spell slot. You can cast a level spell. So one level 1 spell is 1 point of exhaustion, but you could do a level 2 spell for 2 points. If you really need to do a level 6 spell, it's going to be the end of your character, but you're going to go out hopefully with a bang that saves the day.
Which I think is an amazing way as well. Is an excellent narrative point if you really want your character to go that way.
Oh,
You really feel that it's the only thing which you can do. Imagine that.
it's like the heroic moves from the that one shot with the MCDM one shot we did.
Yes.
Yeah. But I like that as a concept to sort of throw in the ability to do that.
Rogue says, how does magic work narratively in Tamrinor? Would that inform a way to do that? So that's a good question.
Yep.
I was thinking about this actually. We said last time, I can't remember the name of the rock. We had this mineral, didn't we? That in the raw form, it was usable by wizards, but in the refined form, it is usable by everybody. Is it based on that? It's like, is it like, does that become magic because of some field, or does that provide the magic? But
Well-
it seems if wizards are eager to have it, it makes sense to me that it is intrinsically tied in with magic and how magic works.
Well, this is the thing which I wanted to bring up was the potential on
Casamite.
effectively.
Sorry.
Casamite, that's
Yeah.
it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the concept of focuses. Because generally the way that we play Dungeons & Dragons anyway is we tend to use focuses rather than worrying about components. So trying to twist that one so that it is actually how our magic system works. So the Casamite, along with other ingredients and such forth, are used to create focusing. And it's the focuses which allow the different types of magic. So there is the potential with that effectively, if you got all the ingredients and put them together, you could make a focus which could potentially be used for high-level magic. Yet the other side is the understanding and ability to use it, which is thus your leveling system going up. So you could make something which could potentially use the highest level spell possible. But unless you know how to use it, it could be catastrophic to try, just in case. Don't get me wrong, I think it's going to take a bit of tweaking before we get it right, but I like the idea instead that we make the focuses an actual point, whether that be something which is already intrinsically attached to you. So the reason why sorcerers are naturally gifted is because it is already bonded to their skin. This one focus is already there. Or other ways. I haven't fully figured this out, but I wanted to basically make it so that the way that we play is the way that our system works.
I like the idea of using Casamite as well. I like the idea of using Casamite focuses as being a way to eschew to eschew material components. I feel that works very strongly. I think one thing we need to look at is the balance of having a spellcaster at low levels even potentially able to cast a very high level spell. Like that is going to require some balancing and some working out how that works.
Well, as I say, when it comes down to the way I have it in my mind is almost along the same lines as your exhaustion idea, but it comes with more dire consequences. That, I mean, let's take it that a level 1 character tries to do a level 20 spell or a level 10 spell, a high level spell. Far beyond their years, far beyond what they could actually reasonably do. But it would have a massive cost as a consequence, and as well as that, an incredible difficulty to get past. It's not to make it easier, but it gives it an option to try. And it is that whole side of things almost. They've figured out a way to make a high-level arcane focus. They don't know how to use it properly yet, so they can't use it safely, but once again, in a Hail Mary pass, where they've decided that it doesn't matter whether they live or die, they've got their friends out the way, and they just try. I'm seeing it more on a narrative sense than I am in a gameplay sense. It's the only thing which I'm looking at, I must admit.
I think
because on a gameplay sense, it doesn't make as much.
Yeah.
And it's only harder to figure out. But I do like the idea of, well, the main thing which I'm trying to put forward is effectively making it the focus is our magic system rather than anything else, because that's how we've been doing things.
We've been doing that for the most part. For certain spells that require items that are consumed, we still get them. At least I do.
That's the costly components, yeah.
Yeah, like the ones that, like any spell that states like Find Familiar has like the herbs and incenses and things that get consumed on the spell's use. It's like my character Carrion in Rhyme has bought 2 lots of them. He hasn't used the spell yet,
but he's ready.
Yeah,
he's ready for when he finally decides what he wants as a familiar.
I'm thinking possibly the easier. I like it as a narrative idea. I think the gameplay balance problem exists, and I think that's something that we're going to.
It will require extensive testing.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm curious to see I'm curious to see whether it's easier to balance it with upcasting spells that you know compared to picking and choosing just any spell from your spell list.
I think that makes more sense, to be fair. That working with something which you know, you can see roughly how to do the next step. You just don't know exactly how to do the next step, so you could attempt to try. Makes more sense when I have no idea how to make a black hole, but I'm going to give it a shot. Doesn't make any narrative sense.
I'm at level 2 wizard, but I'm going to try wish. I vaguely know the concepts of the low level spells, so I'm going to give this one a go. Whereas, like, I've got magic missile down, so I'm going to try casting it at a slightly higher level than I have access to at the moment. There's going to be dire consequences, and it's going to really hurt, but it's going to really hurt that guy as well.
Yes.
Like, I think that's got more balance potential.
That had a lot more merit to it. I'll agree with that entirely. As I say, this was more something which I was sort of playing around with rather than trying to have as a fixed point. But once again, with the whole Chasmite and such like that, I was thinking on what exactly and how we would use it. And if the Chasmite is the key component to any arcane focus, but it's add the ingredients to it, and effectively that becomes focused into a different frame of magic as such. That effectively you would need to acquire the right arcane focus for the right kind of spell.
Yeah.
In which case the different schools of magic just go down different routes using the Chasmite ever so slightly differently.
So, in terms of how magic works, Does Tamrinor have something like the weave? Or do we have...
Should it be on concentrations of Castlemites?
That is an idea.
To be fair, I would like to play forward that there are different types of magic of sorts. Because one thing which I was thinking was more the religious side. Imbued by the gods doesn't feel like it should be coming through the Castlemite unless there is a particular artifact they've left behind. If that makes any sense at all.
I suppose you've then got the differentiation between the divine and the arcane. The arcane goes on the pockets of Castlemite, or the general background Castlemite levels, whereas the divine comes from the god going, hey, you're doing pretty cool.
It also puts a nice little definition between the clerics and the paladins compared to other casters, and the reason why their spells work in the way which they do.
I mean, a potential third option, or third magical origin consideration point, is one that D&D has tried a couple of times, which is the primal.
True.
Where you have primal versus arcane versus divine.
Kind of makes some sense, to be fair.
Do we?
I was gonna say about the fact that druids don't really fall into either of those categories.
Yeah,
that's true.
Or divine, and the same with technically rangers. I suppose would technically be in there as well.
Yeah. Do we go that route? We have the arcane dealing in Castlemite, we have the primal doing something, and we have the divine dealing in godly powers being granted.
I do like that as an idea.
Yeah.
Because I think it works quite nicely. It sort of gives a little separation and also explains why different schools don't necessarily mix too much.
If so, do we have any ideas of what the primal power source is? Like, is there a...
I feel just... I don't want to just say nature, because that kind of limits it, but kind of like life in general.
I would like to say that effectively it's a different kind of god structure. You know how we basically said that our gods have been created after time? We're almost like going Olympian here.
I mean, in that line, are we going Titans for the primal?
Effectively, that's what I'm thinking, where the Titans are more natural as such. And ancient magics.
Yeah, I'm liking the idea of ancient beings being in charge of it.
I mean, it's either some sort of primal titan-y thing or some sort of elemental thing, or elemental titans.
Well, effectively, I was thinking exactly like with maybe along the lines of like Gaia. That it was the god of far beyond and literally the one which brought and is the world. So it is the ancient nature. The ancient ways which are so tied to the world that no one really knows whether it's a god or not. It's just the ancient ways. And the ancient magics. I would like it even to a point where no one understands it, not properly, but it is something which is able to be harnessed and people know how they harness it. That's it. They don't really know its origins anymore. It's long gone. It is so far gone that history can't tell, even the gods themselves aren't sure. Which opens up for potential storylines if the primal and ancient powers decide that they want to regain themselves, to take power back, to really prove themselves again and erupt out of the earth and potentially be the Titans again.
Yeah.
That's something to play for the far future. Let's face it, you have that fun part with Cassamite. Cassamite being an arcane folk, the Cassamite mines erupt. There is a magic field which blows up. We end up with a something which magically just corrupts the place and throws everything upside down entirely. The gods can be wrathful. The gods can come down and do their own thing, and once again that's a storyline by itself, and this gives it one for the primal as well, of potential for the future.
I suppose the other point to this is, do primal and divine powers, are they dampened by the null zones? Or do they have their own null zones?
I don't know what a null zone is. I believe I wasn't here for when that was discussed.
Right, so effectively what we were placing down is that there were places with distinct magic, which is where the Cassamite effectively is, and effectively there would be an anti-Cassamite, which would be a null zone and would sap that magic rather than allow it to prosper.
So you'd sort of have a fringe area around the null zone where your magic suddenly goes wibbly wobbly, and then you'd get into an anti-magic field.
We haven't really discussed fully what Cassamite is. Just beyond that, it is effectively a magic stone which has been found in the ground which can be used. Because that is an interesting question, Heroic, I've got to say. Because maybe that is something which we need to come to a conclusion as to exactly what it is as well. Because if it is along those lines, you can see that effectively, well, opens up another line of possibility, full stop.
I mean, it's still a different way of harnessing
Using
the power.
I would say. Exactly. To go back to your question there, John, I would like to place down that there would be different areas which would have negative effects as well, very much like they have been corrupted or twisted or used by... So with the gods, for example, there are places where the demons have more control than they have, and their power is dampened in these locations. The ones for the sake of the primals are the ones where the world has become so corrupted.
Yeah,
Most
like
likely,
the heavily industrial area we've got.
The Vector's
exactly.
Haven.
So
Effectively, they lose their power, which is the reason why they would also fight to try and make sure that that doesn't take over too much of the world. Because once again, if you have this power, you want to ensure that you keep it. That's why, once, as we've said before, there was this whole point of the balance of the world. Agreements made that forests would be left behind, that this would not be touched and stuff like that. And once again, opens up for more story possibilities of...
The only thing that I'm going to suggest on this is that I feel that the null zones that we've previously mentioned were in the Erium Desert, which is very remote. If we're now saying that primal powers are dampened in Vectis Haven, I feel that they need to be dampened, not completely removed.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Because
otherwise that leaves areas where magic just can't go.
And
yeah,
this is it. It makes it that it's not possible at all.
Yeah,
for that kind of plane.
Or at least if you just make it dampened, or a chance that maybe something will go wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll try to cast a fireball, and instant you'll do a firebolt.
Yeah.
Here's a question.
Even placing in a version of wild magic.
Sorry, Geoff?
Oh, here's a question then. Talk about this. Is it possible to create a null zone?
I would like to place yes.
Because then that's another sort in the world.
I'd like to place in yes,
play
but that we haven't, like, that's part of the main reason that people are researching the null zones. Like, there's the two two viewpoints of it is the one group of people that are researching it to find out what the hell it is and is this a bad thing and are we going to need to worry about magic going away everywhere, and the other group that's going, we want magic to go away everywhere.
But then you could have like the groups like they make progress, so they don't create a full Noah zone, but they can actually dampen it in some areas.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a tension. That becomes a tension between the two
Well,
sides. Then
the other side of things as well, depending on what we end up saying is causing the null zones. In some cases, you could effectively weaponize it as well.
Yeah.
These are now like having armies with anti-magic shields and stuff like that. So dampening the effects of these casters who hit from such distance. But with these shields, we can get close enough that we can regain the power and such forth. Once again, as we say, there's a reason why they're looking into these areas and why people delve into the deserts on a regular basis just to try and find out the source.
So, Sean and Geoff.
yes, we are people.
You are here. Do you have any house rules, homebrew bits that you'd like to put forward to the council?
Homebrew bits. I did have a thing that I saw the other day, and I can't remember most of it.
Because I've got two more myself, but I'm going to let you guys chat a bit.
I think it's a fair place because we've really sort of been, well, I've been mainly jumping on, I'll say that much.
I also, the other side of this, of the other bit that I want to discuss tonight is spells. Are there any spells that we want to not have?
That's a point. With I suddenly thought of one of them. I saw a person talking about some of the rules they do in their games.
Okay.
And you said before about the rapid quaffing rule that we have.
Yes.
I would like to posit forth a possible addendum to it.
Okay.
In that if you use an action to drink a potion, you get the full amount of healing possible.
Okay.
So you're using up your big action to like down the entire thing, make sure the entire thing's gone, shake the bottle into your fucking mouth, make sure every drop is used. Where like
so you do a rapid quaff of it and you get 2d4 plus 2. You do a full-on quaff of it, you get 10 hit points.
Yeah.
You might get 10 hit points on the rapid quaff if you roll well.
You have the chance with rapid, with the bonus action, but if you do it as a full action, you're guaranteed it, but then you can't do anything else. Apart from maybe something bonus action-y. But
I like that.
I do like that as well, actually.
Because it's like, then that way you have the whole thing of like, I need as many hit points from this potion as possible.
Yeah.
It makes it so potions are actually worth something, because I feel that's one thing that a lot of games suffer from, is that people don't bother going for potions because you've got spells that can usually do more healing, even at like a base.
It really also adds to the action economy of, well, I could use this as a bonus action and punch the guy with my main thing, or swing the sword, or do something else. Or, I really need the hit points right now.
Yeah.
I need as many hit points as possible. So, screw it. Glug. But, yeah. I remember seeing that one the other day, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like an interesting rule.
I've got to say, it's something which makes a lot of sense as well. I think it's something which definitely should be put in.
Yeah. It's like the person I heard it from was like a person who's used it in their games for like a good few years now, since the whole rapid quaffing thing. Well, probably shortly after the whole rapid quaffing thing became kind of mainstream. It's a mainstream thing now. Rapid quaffing.
Oh yes.
Everyone, because it's a rule it's a homebrew rule that just makes sense. Damn it.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, like having it, like you said, with the action economy making of like, do I risk getting less but punch, or do I get everything out of this potion I can? Which I feel is a good one. I nod.
And anything from yourself, Geoff?
The look of concentration. Nothing that I can come up with right now.
Okay. So two more that I have seen, and one is, and I want to start bringing this in, like, effectively from now. But I'm gonna talk to both games about this before I just implement it. But I really want to implement it for Tamrinor. Is secret death saves.
Yes. Oh god, yes. I've been thinking of doing that one into my D&D games for a while, and I think that yes. 100% yes.
Because I could list off the whole reason for this. I probably will do, should do. But I was listening to...
Screw you,
I'm going to go and do it. That's what this thing is all about. I think this was a Dimension 20 thing that I was listening to, where they have a bit on one of their shows where a guest introduces a thing and then Brandon Lee Mulligan has to argue against it. And this was one of the ones where Brandon Lee Mulligan was like, don't make me argue against this. This is a really good idea. I love this idea. And it was basically... He does love arguing, and he did argue against this, but it was under much duress and under the pretense of the fact that the show made him argue against it. Which is, death save should be secret, because then you're not going around the table going, oh, that person's failed a death saving throw, but that means they've got 2 death saves left. So I don't need to heal them now. I could, like...
It keeps the urgency of getting them up.
Because how do you know? Like...
No, you wouldn't.
How
Unless
do
you're literally stood over them, and you
honestly,
were...
even the person who is currently in that state...
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't know either.
Yeah, unless you were stood over them and probably had to waste an action on a medicine check, then you might know how they're doing.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair statement as well, that if you come over and do a medicine check, then that's a different matter. Maybe you can actually see how well or badly they've been doing, but that is wasting an action, or is it?
Yeah.
But even with that case, if you've used medicine to check on their health to make sure they're alive and been close enough to do that, you might as well have stuck a potion in their mouth. You might as well have done that.
But then again, that's if you're able to do that. What the situation which I'm thinking is that you have no potions on you at this point. Your healer is the other side of the room, and all you are trying to do is try and figure out whether you need to get the healer over to you or leave them where they're in a reasonable position. If that makes sense.
Basically, I would like to take the opposite stance to this, actually.
Okay.
Just because somebody has to. When a person goes down for unconscious, you know you've got at least 2 turns anyway. You know that just because that's how the game works.
That's true.
Also, you don't get the full-on panic around the table of seeing someone roll a 1 on a death save.
True,
yes.
but you do get the panic that you have no idea. idea what the roll
You
was.
you have no idea how long they've got left, but you know they've got at least 2 turns.
Potentially.
So saying like the idea like, no, I don't have to do it now, I can do it later.
Well-
it is kind of still there because you know they've got 2 turns.
But
They've got at
The
least
thing
2
is,
turns left.
to expand on on Ben's potentially, there's always the chance the enemy's going to hit him again. And
Yeah,
then they've got
exactly.
For instance, throwing it out there, the fight you guys just had in Rime of the Frost Maiden last week, Geoff, you weren't there, but Tanny rushed off as Cherish, saw the bad guy running away and chased him, ran up and had incredible bad luck of swinging once, missing once, and then just getting backhanded by the bad guy and going down, and then the bad guy having a second attack which he used to knock out 2 death saving throws. And then
That's
Tanny decided
Cherish
to...
was in another, and Cherish was in a separate room, so we weren't even in the room with her.
And so Tanny decided to roll the death save in private. And all the group got was Tanny rolled a death saving throw, and everybody heard this sound. And that was all of the information the players got as to how the death save had gone. It was a 10.
Oh, yeah, that'd be the reaction, yeah. But that tends to be the exception rather than the rule. That's the normal mindless. I say mindless monster. Your average mindless monster is going to stop attacking as soon as the enemy ceases to be a threat.
As long as there's other threats around.
As long as other threats around,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All the other side of things when it comes down is if it recognizes that this is such a threat that you don't want it to get up. I mean, if this, once again, then say that out of the lot of you, you've been firing arrows, and this is the one which casts fire. You want to make sure that the fire one is dead. And that's coming from the very basic mentality.
On the other hand, the fire one is down, no longer a threat. So then you can cut. Then you got some more time to concentrate on the arrows.
But then the only reason I place this one down is going with the most basic mentality which I can go with, which is let's go with a goblin of sorts who is used to being in the forest, doesn't really come across other people that usually fight back, so he only knows goblinoid and animal. We'll come across the idea that an animal will feign death to try and prove that it's okay. And the only way you can really prove that it's dead and make sure it's no longer a threat, which when you run past it to start attacking its brethren, it's not going to get up and bite you, is to ensure that you take off the head or you do the finishing blow.
You double tap the zombie.
Exactly. In which case, there is high reason why a low intelligence creature would do the exact same thing. They double tap to ensure. Once I stab it on the ground, it's not moving, then okay, it's not faking, I can run over and do the other ones.
Just to belabor this point a bit longer, just to like get your money's worth of argument. Why do we not do that anyway in our game?
I think the opportunity is always there, but we are kind GMs. The real question is whether or not we want to actually give the opportunity for full-on difficult. Generally, we like to go more the kind GM because
in that case, why have death saves in the first place?
Because it still adds that little element of you can get past it. There is a chance. You take that ability away entirely, well, as you say, there's a possibility on that side of things, but it's having that opportunity, that chance.
I mean, the other sort of taking that particular argument of we're kind GMs, so why have death saves, to its logical conclusion is why have hit points.
Well, I play the game, we'll just talk about it instead.
No, what I don't mean like. What I'm trying to say is, if we're like, no, I think we have gone off a bit of track here, but this question about like, no, why don't monsters like, just kill the enemies that are down? That's a different question.
That is a very different question, and it's a question that changes based on. Yeah, Rogue also is now going to bring up that he can argue about why have hit points at all, and that hit points as an abstraction don't really work. But
we could have full-on conversation. Maybe we should actually turn this into a different segment. We should do at one point every now and again. It's just the council
argue about
discussing.
why mechanics? Why do they work? Why don't they work?
The reason I'm placing this one down is just for the sake of placing a reason why it might be an option for them to take.
The main thing is there are going to be times where certain characters, certain monsters are going to react differently. Like, if for instance the character is someone like Valome, the assassin who is sent to target specifically one character in the group, he is going to focus on that character. If that character goes down, he is going to keep focusing on them. A lot of the time, the monsters aren't focused on one target. They are caring about the fact that all of these people are a threat. And so if that one's having a nap right now, we'll go back and double tap it later. But we need to deal with all of the rest of these people with sharp metal and or flame-flinging hands.
That's what I was saying. It's very situational.
Of course it is.
Like, the double tap is very situational.
You could say that for everything in RPG, but the fact of the matter is you still need to prepare for what is going to happen when it happens.
So
it's a bit like not everyone's going to jump off the cliff, but when they do, you need to have an answer for what happens when they hit the bottom.
Okay, so there's a case of like Storm King's Thunder as well, where Amy's character, Briar, did 2 death saves, but then rolled the 3rd one secretly to you.
Yeah.
So could that be a compromise? You can roll the 2, if you wish to roll the 2 out in the open, you can do, but the 3rd one goes to GM.
That's not necessarily a bad idea, actually.
I mean, an argument, I suppose, could be made that the final... No, because part of the argument there is you don't necessarily know which is going to be the final death save.
That's true.
Because
that's true, actually,
Essela don't roll a 1.
That's the other side of things. If they do roll a 1 or anything like that, you know immediately.
But at the same time, Essela don't roll a 1 is a great clip. Everybody got into that.
Yes.
Especially, everybody reacted to that. Everybody like panicked at that. Rolling to GM, I think you might lose something of the reaction for that.
But it also means that every time you go down, you are in that panic because every roll could be a 1.
But you know that in that case, you know that going back to that situation, you know that the first roll is not going to kill them.
Yeah,
it's true. It's
but
very
then
true, but the other side is
you've still got that action economy of, well, I know that I don't need to get over there this second when they've just dropped, but I do need to start prioritizing getting over there because I don't know whether if after this round I've got another round to get there.
Yeah.
And plus the other side of thing, with there being an enemy around there, do you have the time in your action economy to get over there, take care of the enemy which is trying to attack, before you try to heal? Or do you heal and risk getting attacked yourself?
Well, it could be worse. One video for Dungeon Craft that I watched once, his house rule for this, and he's actually scribbled out in the rulebook for this. If a character starts the turn with 0 hit points, they are dead. No death saves.
If we were playing that kind of game, which was evidently unforgiving, that would be great. We're not playing that kind of game.
But yeah, I know. I wasn't bringing it up as something to use. I was saying, that's the other extreme of it. And again, that there's a lot of abilities that actually revolve around dying characters.
Yeah, there's plenty of games out there that use very different dying mechanics. I've got plenty of them that are literally akin to that. If there are no death saves, when you get to 0, you're gone. Like, not even you start your turn. It's you get to 0, you're gone.
I'm slightly curious because I've just seen, I think it's Arcane Anthems just posted that he's doing a campaign at the moment where he's asked all of the players to pick characters, to pick classes that are from third-party content. So none of the standard classes, all of the classes in his game are third-party content. And one of them that he has talked about is a character class called the Martyr, where your character is destined to die at a very specific point later on down the line. And a lot of your skills as a martyr come from the fact that you aren't dying now. You can get damn close to it and you can sacrifice your hit points to do things, to power magic, because at some point later on you are destined to die. But until you do, you can use your hit points, you can do things. But that's a sort of beside the point thing on this particular note. It's a kind of cool functionality that I liked the sound of.
I feel like that idea as well.
I feel I've just lit a fire in Ben, and I need to find where that martyr class is written.
It reminds me of. Do you know the? Or I don't know whether you potentially watched the film Hercules starring The Rock.
Yes.
And the whole concept, there's one character in there who has seen where he is going to die. So up until that point, he knows that this isn't what kills me. This isn't what kills me. I know what kills me. It's a barrage of arrows. It's an arrow on fire is what kills me. Or
so until I'm facing that,
basically you get a glimpse of a vision of what is meant to kill you. But at the same time, that fate can change. But that is what is your fated at that time.
I am a main plot.
But it's that whole bit that it gives him that ability to believe, and it's the power of belief against anything else, which has allowed him to fight in a more distinct manner, which thus I can see as the class style. And that's immediately what jumped in my mind when you said that. It's like, I can see that, because once again, if you don't believe you're going to die in it, you're going to fight in a different way. You're going to go for these different things. That's what Ben's saying. You can see a whole culture built around that in the Kingdoms of Amalur. I don't know that one, so I can't really make a comment, but I'm sure someone in the council can.
I haven't played it.
1 second.
Me neither.
Nope.
Correction. I tried, but
we are going to need you, Rogue, to define a little bit further if you can, because we are interested actually. Because I am definitely.
Ben is definitely interested.
Oh yeah. I mean, for the sake of adding in a different version of a class or something, I like that as an idea of a starting point. That effectively there are these oracles who you could potentially see, who can tell you that yes, this is it, or maybe when they're born, they get a prophecy made on them because that is who they are.
That's just the dooming from Warhammer Fantasy.
The other side is that you've thrown that other aspect that it can be literally taken away from you, and that whole bit of you stole my death. Thus I cannot die or will die. Oh, who knows what will happen afterwards?
With Warhammer Fantasy, I love that I love the dooming idea of when you're a child, you are taken to one of the priests of Mor, who is the god of death, and they prophesize how you're going to die as a child.
Oh God, that makes it so right. It's a paladin.
But in the RPG version of Warhammer Fantasy, the dooming has a technical aspect of if you manage to die in that way, you get a bonus when you make a new character.
But no, don't you see? That is exactly the best way about it. That is a paladin sword. The paladin who is literally, or a cleric of sorts. This is ordained by God. This is how you are going to die.
Yeah.
Up until that point, and by that belief, and so long as you hold that belief that this is the only way that you will die, and if you follow through, you believe that you gain your existence, you gain what you need to beyond it, and it is a truth and a point proven of your belief.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've gone down a whole new route. We're not making a class here, we're making a subclass, and I'm loving it.
Go back to his. I think go back to the original question of
What was it now?
death save.
Secret
Death
death
saves.
saves.
GM only death saves. I prefer to put it in as a recommendation rather than a hard and fast rule.
I think it's something, if anything, we need to test it. We need to do a game of some kind when it comes down to that we can actually test.
Okay.
And see what effect we get from it, if you would all agree.
I'm up for that.
Yeah. Give it a go for a little while. If people prefer that way over the other, then
I would love for us to basically run a one shot at one point. I'm not putting myself forward for doing this one. I'm getting ready to try and do the avatar. I'm gonna have to focus in on that. But effectively, in this game, one of you will die. You don't know which one. You can try and get as attached as you like, but one of you will die. That is placed down right at the beginning. Regardless of what happens, the damage ramps up. Everything gets more and more chaotic. It gets harder and harder, and the whole point is trying to stay alive. Your only aim is to stay alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't count if you end up killing your allies. Your aim is that you've got to try and keep your allies alive. But one of you is destined to die here. You just don't know which one it is. And who knows? Maybe you can even defy the gods and stop it from happening, but one of you is destined to die. And that would be effectively the one shot and see how it plays out. Because once again, it is seeing that whole point that death is absolutely on the table. And what you can do about it. Because once again, if you do that and then I'm going to roll your death save, you won't know how well it's worked. No one's going to know how well it's worked. And we can see the reaction afterwards.
I mean, the other potential thing I think to test this is we just, for both Mad Mage and Rime of the Frost Maiden, for the next little while, we do secret death saves.
That's not a bad idea as well.
yes, that's the way I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was so glad he didn't say Tyranny of Dragons, because knowing my luck.
Both knowing your luck and how many death saves you've made.
I've died a few times in Tyranny of Dragons.
Okay, short version is a song of the normalized guy. Normals colonize the Fae realm. The Fae live out their tales of their entire life. If someone dies to the story, that's how they'll die. They become along with it. Oh, that's interesting.
Because I was very, very drunk.
Another thing that I'm going to throw out to the council as a discussion point is something that Rogue brought up to me this afternoon as having seen as a meme post on a D&D thing on somewhere, which was using, so there's the honor rule in the DMG. There's the Facebook is where Rogue saw this. I think I've possibly since seen the same meme. But there's the optional honor score in the DMG.
Yeah.
And it basically works as a 7th stat.
Okay, yeah.
One of the things that Rogue was, or this particular meme was suggesting, was using the honor stat as the paladin's spellcasting ability.
Okay. I do like that as an idea. Depending on which, once again, I would say subclass on that one. Because it depends on what on earth they're actually their honor is meant to be based upon and how we would be running the honor system.
Yeah, because it's like I worry about that in terms of not because there was a video that Critical Role made ages ago with like Matt Mercer's whole like how to GM thing that he made.
Yeah.
Years ago now, and he made a video on there about going against type. Where like you're not like just because you're a barbarian, you're not some guy who's lived in the forest for years and raised by wolves. You might just be a lumberjack whose wife left him, and his kids ran off with his goldfish, and he's just an angry lumberjack. So it's like he's not necessarily your standard barbarian.
No, of course.
He's just a character that uses rage, and it can work the same with paladins in that, like for example, Thorin didn't particularly give a shit about honor. It was just doing the right thing. Like, so he wasn't a lawful paladin, he was a relatively chaotic paladin. So honor wouldn't really fit as a stat for him, because he doesn't really care about honor.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing it out as an idea.
I like the idea as a subclass.
As Ben said, like certain subclasses would work with it being honor, but
I think it sort of has to work as a class-wide thing. So possibly it's a different class.
Either that, or you define your honor differently, depending.
That's the other option. Is honor means something.
A whole new kettle of fish as to exactly how that one works out. But then again, that could be something which is decided between player and GM before the game begins. Well, your honor is based upon da-da-da-da.
It's also sort of along the same lines of charisma can mean multiple things to multiple characters, because it could mean that you've got a high charisma, your character looks great, or it could mean that your character is really good at talking to people.
Yeah.
Or they just have a force of personality that is like the same sort of thing where you've got an honor system. It might be that you're a mafia gang member and your honor is I honor among thieves. I don't turn against my people. I look after people in this line, or I take orders from above, and or you're a samurai and you.
The other side of things are, how do you imagine this honor system to work exactly, for the sake of gaining or losing points to your honor?
I mean, that's really the thing, is there isn't one in the rules as set in the DMG.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea. Certainly when it's been a bit more defined that the honor can mean different things. So it's not a case of just being honorable by the classic tense. It could be honor by, as you say, honor by thieves, or honor by just your way of life. But to gain and lose points, I think is something which we need to figure out before we could progress further with this.
So the honor system, as it's written in the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you roll for your ability scores, you roll for honor. Exactly the same as you roll for the rest of them. You can't increase it the same way that you can increase your normal ability scores. You can award increases to honor or impose reductions based on the character's actions at the end of an adventure if you think the character's actions in the adventure reflected well or poorly on his or her understanding of the code. You can increase or decrease the honor by 1. As with any other ability stat, it can't go over 20 or under 1.
Okay. I think we would need to sort of expand on that one, but I think that's going to take a lot of thinking about.
I think that's possibly...
I do kind of like the idea, but I think we need to make it work for us.
I think that's something that is an idea to expand on, not necessarily something to put in
Yeah.
straight here and now.
I would definitely chuck it into our notes to expand upon. I'd say that much. Because I think it's something we can work with. I think it's something we can adapt into. But at the same time, I don't think it's fully there yet. And please do go against me if you think otherwise. But
I'm in agreement with this. I think that there needs to be more. Because one of the big things, obviously, if you do use it as a spellcasting stat, is obviously with the standard classes and ability scores, you need to be able to improve them to be able to get better at spellcasting.
yes.
Yeah.
And sort of one of the big things as a spellcaster is you want to be able to sync ability score improvements into the thing that you do to do the spell casting with.
This is the thing which I would be more inclined to think along the lines of honor being more a modifier of sorts, which can potentially go, if you are being honorable, you are following your code, it goes up to something and can potentially increase to a higher number as your level increases. But it can also go into negative numbers or the exact opposite. So let's say that you start off with a maximum potential of honor +3.
Yeah.
That your honor could also be -3.
I could see that. Sort of
So once
something
again,
that
it's
is
something to
if you
think
are
about.
if you are following your code.
Yeah, if you're following your
To
code,
be fair,
you get bonus to your spells or whatever.
yeah.
But if you're dishonorable, it negates it to a point where eventually you're an oathbreaker. Fuck you.
Potentially that instead of honor, what if what if we look at that system, but instead of honor, we title it devotion, and it works for both divine classes, clerics.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Clerics and paladins.
The only other thing which I'd place down is because we're adding another thing to clerics and paladins. Are we doing something similar for other classes?
We would potentially need to look into something for that.
Because it's I'd like the idea that, your gameplay and how you role play, especially for the sake of the way that we play. We're not war gamers, we're role players. So, because we're aiming for what we play like, and we do like the role play side of things, we would love the idea of adapting and increasing or decreasing levels depending on how we role play.
Yeah.
I like this as an idea, but we need to come across with something which goes across the board, or something similar that we can adapt into the other ones, so that it's not just focusing on one class or two class in this case.
That is a good point. Rogue says, considering there is an Oath of Devotion paladin, maybe the name isn't right. For context,
no, you've got a good point there.
Honor, as suggested, is for all characters.
There is the honor amongst thieves, which works for the rogues. There is an honor of this. There is an honor of that. The honor of your class and the honor of your character.
I mean,
I can see that.
So, I mean, going back to looking at this particular thing, isolated at the moment, but potentially looking at something similar to it for other classes. Not necessarily the same thing, but something similar to it. I mean, devotion works, but I mean, piety?
Piety
doesn't necessarily work entirely, does it?
Yeah, but once again, obviously, if you're not playing necessarily a pious paladin, it doesn't work.
It's kind of why devotion works.
That
regardless of what type of assuming the system is that your power comes your attunement. I mean, that could work for all the spellcasters.
That's true.
Mm.
It's attunement to your particular spell and your particular... It actually makes a lot of sense for spellcasters, actually.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what you're attuning to, you're attuning to it. So you're attuning to your guard, you're attuning to the Casamide, you're attuning to anything. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, attunement, no, not atonement. Attunement is something for all spellcasters, possibly a positive or negative bonus to spellcasting. To be playtested, to be worked out,
Yeah.
to be finalized.
Oh god, yeah.
Be whittled as we see fit.
The other suggestion, again, this is a thing that Rogue brought up before we started this stream, in an attempt to not, what was the wording we used? Was it to spice the tea, to not poison the well, to not, but to give us things to think about.
Okay.
One of the things that he brought up, and I think it's something that we do need to discuss, are there any spells that we want to rule out?
Oh, if I knew we were having this conversation, I probably would have taken a proper look through.
I mean, I'm not going to say that we need to think about all of them at the moment.
I
mean, there are books and books and books of the things, to be honest.
To be fair, I have always questioned Wish in particular.
Yeah.
Because it feels like something in my mind that shouldn't be something that can just be held on to cast. It feels like more something which is attained. Effectively like finding a genie in a bottle kind of situation. It's not that a wish should not be applicable, it should be that it needs to be attained in a particular way.
I say we get these 7 balls.
But that's my point. We could come up with a different way that you could effectively
Okay, so
wish.
You have to collect these 7 mysterious balls from around the world, and you summon the great, I don't know, some form of, maybe like a phoenix.
I feel like some sort of like fire-breathing reptile.
No, it's not quite there.
No.
No one would believe it. No one would go with that side of story. We can't do that.
Who would think of that and stretch it out over multiple seasons?
Sean, Akira Toriyama wants his idea back.
Tough fight now, bitch. Fight for it.
Just waiting to hear someone screaming in the background behind Sean.
Just suddenly she's through the window.
Rogue says, fire-breathing reptiles. My goodness, how exciting and unseen.
I know.
I mean, I do like the idea of restricting Wish from being a spell to being something else.
Yeah.
Something like tied to an artifact or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to. So if you want to cast Wish, you have to find that thing.
Yes, you require certain things, and I would say a particular attunement to magic as well would definitely be necessary. But
yeah,
you need the artifact. You need something which is going to do that for you.
The other one that straight out of the bat, I want to throw in the nope list. Dream of the Blue Veil.
Okay. So that what happens?
So Dream of the Blue Veil is a spell that is a 7th level spell. It's a 10-minute casting time, and then you and up to 8 willing creatures fall unconscious for 6 hours. During this time, you experience visions of another world on the material plane, such as Oarth or Toril or Kryn or Eberron. If you get the full 6 hours of sleep, you wake up on that other world.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's... Yeah.
It's always... Like, I don't want people taking it whenever we've got high enough level to take it anyway. I kind of view it as the just noping out of the plot line spell.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong with that spell.
I mean,
in terms of plan around it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there would be all the jokes of, like, you know, John wants to ban banishment or any of the damn spells that Sean frequently uses to stop me having fun as the GM.
I do no such thing. I merely have a cleric that makes it so you can't do critical hits anymore.
Yeah, for instance. But those can be plotted around sort of now that we've got to the point, I think, where Rhymer the Frost Maiden is getting banishment amongst its spellcasters. There are things like a lot of the...
There is a way to fix that. All the boss... I think we discussed it before with the Christmas special. All boss level enemies get at least one legendary resistance.
That is very much the point, is like any time from now on that you guys face a boss level character in Rhymer the Frost Maiden going forward, they're going to have some form of legendary resistance type thing where it's like you fail a saving throw. Oh no, I can just pass it. Because otherwise it's, oh hey, I'm the boss of this encampment. Oh, I've gone.
Yeah.
And you deal with all the minions, and then you gather back up around where the boss is going to reappear in a minute. Rogue, that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really harsh. Sorry, Rogue is suggesting no Goodberry, Revivify, or Cure Wounds, just Healing Word, and it just triggers a healing surge.
No.
That's how it used to work in 4th edition, wasn't it?
I think a lot of the healing in 4th edition was you get a healing surge now. Yeah.
I must say, there is another one which I would like to propose.
Okay.
Which is clairvoyance. And I propose more a change rather than eliminating it.
Okay.
Effectively giving you a chance to see something, depending on what I would suggest the DM to give a roll to decide in their own mind how important, whether it's something sideliney, whether it's something which actually sort of guides you to what you're looking for, or show you an item of significance, rather than this, what it actually says, which is you create a invisible sensor within range in a location familiar to you, whereas in a location which is unfamiliar to you. But once again, this whole thing where when it comes down, it doesn't feel like what clairvoyance should be. In my mind, it's more to show you something which is ahead on your path that may or may not be of importance. So it could show you a trap. It could show you a hidden chest. It could show you a whole list of different things, depending on what the DM wants to show you, or potentially would roll to decide. you know, how important it's going to be. But it gives you something that they might be looking out for, and potentially as they go into one room or another. If that makes any sense.
I like that as an idea.
Yeah, because I agree that the way that clairvoyance is at the moment, that doesn't sound like clairvoyance.
Not at all. It's literally throwing an orb into a room and looking and getting that's
it's scrying.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's just another kind of scrying.
Exactly.
It's scrying, but you're doing it on here. Or like you're doing it next door. Like
Yeah.
It's like closer scrying. Where it's just like, that's kind of dumb, pointless. I don't know of anyone who's ever used clairvoyance in D&D.
No, and the reason why I think that it becomes a bit more interesting this way is that it gives you a reason to actually use it for one. Because once again, there is a chance that you're going to come across something, and it might even be a case that you've got nothing to do, so while you've got a long rest, or just before you have it, you just do a clairvoyance because you happen to have the spell slot free, and there might be something further down the line which we're going to be coming across. We'll keep an eye out for da-da-da-da. Whereas beforehand, as you say, there's no reason to really cast it.
No. Especially since it takes 10 minutes to cast, it's kind of like...
Exactly.
There's really no point.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I think as well, especially imagining it in certain situations where people are getting ready for particular rests and such like that, but, well, while everyone's sort of resting for a bit, okay, let's take a look-see. Because that really feels more what a clairvoyance would be. You're not doing it in the heart of action, you're doing it when everything's calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
So one other thought, because I like to try and tie things together a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The fading souls rule, the difficulty bringing the dead back.
Yes.
Can we tie that to? Where is my NPCs list? Because I need to remember which hero it is. I think it was Emberwolf. Can we tie that in some way to the Vorthir and or the corruption of whatever the entity is?
Ooh, I like that.
So the reminder for people in case they haven't been around or have forgotten.
May or may not have been here.
The Vorthir is a sphere that Emberwolf encountered during a self-imposed exile that was a magic item that allowed you to return from the dead, but you didn't remember your life. You were a different person.
Right.
I do like that as an idea that it almost effectively, the more difficult it gets, it's like you're losing parts of you as you go. Because obviously the whole aspect of that one, once again, as is written right in front of us, with great pain you can gain fractions of the life back.
I'm just wondering
that
if
becomes harder.
The corruption of the creature from the east is doing something to the world wherein it is becoming harder to return.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason why it's such an interesting side of things.
Yes, Rogue. Basically, I think with the Vorthir, and if you were resurrected with it, it was effectively same soul, different person. You know, sort of.
Yeah.
You remembered your life with, as it says, with pain they could remember their life, but then some of the details might be a little bit different. In terms of the spell casting,
and effectively to go along with that, effectively it is coming back with amnesia. You've forgotten your past life, but you can start to regain parts of it. But I would say for anything which you haven't regained, your brain would effectively be tying together new connections, adjusting like our brains do in this world, where we create the connections in our head and fill in the gaps. So you might not end up being the exact same person you were before because you've lost a few things and your brain has readjusted the story, as it were, to who you are.
But that, to be clear, that is the Vorthir. That is not all resurrection works that way.
No, exactly.
That is resurrection with this specific artifact.
Yeah.
Leads to a very specific thing.
Which I would say as well, if we do have this artifact, which they do come across, and which absolutely should be a potential, that it is well known that it can absolutely bring back, and I would place that one down, absolutely bring back. But the big cost is whether it will bring back the person, not necessarily the memories of, or the personality or everything which has been acquired over time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a guarantee revival, but they're not going to remember.
Exactly. There's a chance that they could, but they're not going to remember to start off with.
And indeed, Rogue.
Indubitably.
It's very true as well.
I'm just gonna...
I feel that we're getting to the point of wrapping up this session. Is there anything else anyone else wishes to throw into this?
I wish to throw a thing in.
Anyone at all?
Up. Anyone? Me, John.
Sean.
Do I know anyone? No. Something else that I saw, another homebrew role. That I personally very much agree with this homebrew role.
Okay.
Because it puts value on a spell that kind of gets pointless without this particular. And that this particular rule is that short rests don't identify items.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it makes identify useless. Because you can just sit and look at the thing and go, oh yes, this makes a thermonuclear explosion. Yes.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'll say that much.
Because it's like, then that way, like, you by all means, like, a spellcaster can like look at it and like use, like, I don't know, arcane ability check or something, arcane skill check, and see that there's magic in it, and like obviously you can use, is it Eyes of the Runekeeper as a warlock? Detect magic. Either way,
there is a detect magic thing.
Yeah. Either way, detect magic and everything. You can tell there's magic on it, and by spending time with it, you know there's magic, but you just don't know what it's going to do. Like,
is this like all. Does this go back to like the rule as written that with the magic item you first have to identify it and then you can attune it? A lot of people seem to conflate the two.
Possibly.
Because you'd attune to it in the short rest, because as you know, you take an hour to attune to it, that's probably a short rest, but you have to identify it separately, and I think in some cases, probably in our games or in other games, it's been like the two, you know, you identify it and you attune to it in the same period.
Yeah.
And that could be where that comes from.
Well, I think that's what many people do it as, is that as part of a short rest, you don't even need to necessarily even attune to it. You just completely identify the item, which, like I said, just makes it so this spell that should be really valuable and really useful is worthless.
Yeah.
Because what's the point in having identified ever? if you're just going to be able to sit with it and go, yep, this can do that.
The one thing about Identify, actually, that I've always found a bit weird is it's a very, very low level spell, but it requires a
Have I dipped?
Sorry, did Geoff cut out there?
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, hear you now.
Yeah. What I was saying. The thing I've never understood about Identify is it's a very, very I think it's like a level 2
It's
spell.
a level 1 spell.
It's a level 1 spell, but in order to use it, you need something that you're not going to have at level. You're very rarely going to have at level 1. So there's a spell you take the spell that's useless to you until you actually scrape up enough money to get the item you need for it. And I've never quite understood that.
But you don't.
What? Sorry.
The owl feather worth 100 gold, I'm assuming, or
It's a pearl worth of 100 gold,
which as long as you have a focus, you don't need.
You do, because it's costed. Costed materials don't use a focus.
I thought it was costed materials that are consumed. You need.
I always read it as materials that have a cost. You don't have the focus. You can't use it with a focus.
I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. But either way, it still makes the worthless by being able to just short rest and find out what a thing is.
Yeah, I think I think possibly that's that is a bit of it that is I think possibly, as Geoff says, sort of conflating a couple of rules, because I think it is you spend a short rest with a thing and you can work out what it does, but you don't necessarily know all of what it does, whereas Identify tells you all of what the thing does.
I mean, that makes some sense. You can get a rough understanding, but you don't really understand it. Identify would tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I'm proposing short rest tells you nothing. Because it realistically wouldn't.
I think the only big problem with that is that completely eliminates a lot of the cursed item mechanic.
If you get someone stupid enough.
Because it almost entirely eliminates the cursed item mechanic. Not necessarily completely eliminates, but it almost entirely eliminates the cursed item mechanic, because part of the reason that you would attune to, like, apparently except for Rogue, who is happy to be cursed. But part of the reason that cursed items work the way that they do is that you pick the item up and you gain some understanding of what it does, and then suddenly, oops, I'm cursed.
I point to the traumatized carrion.
This is true.
A lot. I think the vast majority of cursed items are you touch it and you're cursed. Very few of them are you attuned to it.
I suppose if it's not an item
and even then, I'm pretty sure does Identify actually tell you if it's cursed?
Yes, because it tells you everything about the item.
True. So yeah, it would.
But you'd have to touch it anyway for Identify, so you're already done.
Yeah.
If it is, you touch a thing and it
set it off.
You touch a thing and you become cursed by it, then yes, you would be in trouble the second you touch it, which is the way that it does work for some items. But it's not an everything. Sorry, I'm trying to just look up in the background quietly the arcane focus rules. Come on, get on with actually telling me what it does. If the spell states that a material component is consumed by the spell, the caster must provide the component for each casting of the spell.
Yeah.
By costing.
If a cost is indicated in the component card, must have to speak. That's correct.
Oh, yeah.
No, correct.
If it has a cost, you need the item.
Because otherwise, why put it in?
So yeah, for identify, you do need a pearl. You don't need the owl feather, but you do need the pearl. But it is not consumed by the spell.
But you, at level 1, you're very unlikely to have the money to get that, which that's where my disconnect comes in with it.
Yeah.
I think that the main reason that it is a level 1 spell is that it kind of needs to be a very basic spell, and it's sort of pitched as low-level magic. And so it's like, it's not necessarily a thing that you can do at level 1, but it's a thing that they want you to be able to use your first level spell slots on, especially when you're higher level. Whereas you're not considering, do I cast Fireball or do I do Identify on that item later? I think that is possibly that there is a little bit of a disconnect with it, but I think that's the purpose of that.
Yeah.
Is it's not necessarily a level 1 spell, it's a level 1 spell for later on levels.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see the argument that you don't get all of a magic item unless you identify it.
Yeah.
So maybe you get the curse if there is a curse on it, and plus whatever weapon it is, if it's a weapon or an armor. But to get the full effect of everything that thing can do, you need to identify what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because effectively, I always imagine that's effectively how you figure out how it activates as well.
Yeah.
As you say, with a weapon in particular, if it has a particular eye that needs to be compressed or done something to.
Or a code word,
or... Yeah. You're not just going to figure that one out by swinging it around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility. What about magic item levels, so that items might only reveal certain item abilities at certain casting levels, like it's too magically complex for Identify at level 1, but Identify upcasted to level 5 can explain all of an item.
I kind of like that for some particular items. I think it would depend on the item itself.
Yeah, it would have to be, I feel it would need to be a particularly strong item that you need to upscale.
Yeah.
Like, is there like a rating system? I know there's like common, uncommon, rare, and wondrous. Could you like base it on that?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, the other big thing is that then also does give you more of an advantage or more of an option as a GM to be able to go, this thing that you're trying to identify with an identify spell, this is an ancient magic item, and you're using a first level spell on it.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna tell you everything about it.
No.
Yeah, but if you cast that at level 7, maybe.
There you go. But like when we had the here are these mysterious standing stones that stand just outside of town that nobody knows what they do. And it's like, oh, well, we're gonna go and cast identify on those.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, yeah. Why has nobody else thought to do that in the history of the town?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because you cast identify on them and nothing happens because screw you, you ain't getting it for a first level spell slot.
Yeah.
Any other business?
There is one last homebrew idea which I've come across and half thinking about it and not sure.
Okay.
Would love to see what people's opinions are. Because I think it needs a playtest before fully going through, which is effectively for skill checks, the help action you require to have proficiency on what you're helping with. This was something which was suggested a while ago that if you're in a situation where a barbarian is trying to shift over a giant boulder, the last person you want to run over is the wizard. Or the wizard should at least have a penalty because it shouldn't be something they would normally try to do to aid. So in order to help someone, it should be something which you would normally be able to help with. So the wizard would certainly be able to help you out with the arcana side of things if you needed aid to decipher a spell which is written on the wall. But should you require to try and shove open the giant doors, which are beyond your strength, the last person you want to run over is the wizard.
It's not a bad shout.
It's kind of situational again as well, because like, take an example, if you're performing your medicine check on a down character, do you need proficiency in medicine to be able to just hold this while I do this?
Oh, I think it is a situational side of things, but I think it's also to try and stop the whole aspect of everyone charging for, oh no, well, I'll help, we'll all help.
Yeah.
And you get a bombardment of this happening, whereas once again, situational, of course. There's a person on the floor, you're trying to do a medicine check, you just need someone to... And if you place that one down, once again with the role play, that I need someone to hold him while I perform this so he doesn't sort of go shaking. You don't need a person with a medicine check, you need a person with a strength check to keep them down and in place. In which case you've thrown in a different reason why it's working.
You're giving a reason why the help action works this way for this particular thing.
Exactly. Which is the reason why the situational helps. And yes, situational entirely. This is an entirely situational side of things. But for the average of shoving a big heavy thing, ideally you want another person who can shove a big heavy thing.
Yeah. That is a very specific thing that you need help with, and thing that somebody, and if they can work out
you can't come out with another way.
If the wizard can come up with a way that they're going to help. I cast telekinesis. The best way which I would end up
thinking is like, oh no, even better than that. I can imagine that. Okay, the wizard, for the sake of his years of academic, has decided, actually, what we need is a lever motion. You carry on shoving. If I shove this stick with this stone and lever, I can use less strength to try and trigger. It's basically giving the option of, if you're just trying to straight up help, you need to have proficiency with what they're trying to help with. If you're coming up with another way that you are helping them, then that's a different matter entirely, and that's where the situational comes in.
Yeah.
So with your medicine check, I need someone to hold him down while he's having this fit so I can do what I need to do. You don't need someone to help you with the medicine check, you need someone to help you with holding them down, in which case they can help you with the help check in that manner. Did that make sense?
The only thing I would think in that is that if they were trying to help, like you say, with like holding them down while you're trying to do medicine, as that example, is I feel what would be a good thing to do in that would be that the person holding down does a strength or athletics check to hold down, and that could possibly reduce the DC.
That's what I'm sort of thinking. As I say, I've read this, I've come across this, and it's like
they can still help,
yeah,
in their own way,
and it helps in a different manner than the help action itself.
Rather than an advantage, it's a slight to major reduction, depending on what well they do. Of
you
the
aid
DC.
in your way, yeah.
Rather than, because otherwise, I was just thinking when you were first saying it, it's like, well, that kind of just dissuades anyone from even attempting to help, ever. Like the wizard, as much as they really want to help, they're just going to go, nah, fuck them.
It's very true. Once again, coming up with a different manner in which to...
If you can think of an alternate way of how you're helping, and then you roll something to help lower the DC of...
Which I think actually is a much better way of doing it, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree.
I came across it and it's like, I like the idea, but it just doesn't feel like it was fully there. And I think that is pretty much getting it far closer.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you can aid straight away, like you've got two people who've got very good with the medicine, of course it makes sense that you're literally helping each other out as if two surgeons immediately jumping on the situation. But otherwise, being able to reduce the DC and making things easier by doing something else which aids the situation.
Still helpful, but
exactly.
But you're just doing your own special way of helping. Like the bard cheerleading in the background.
Here's Coney playing Staying Alive so that they know the exact chest pumps.
The rhythm for the chest.
The compression,
Okay, so I think that we've hit a point to call a close to this session.
I think that's fair.
How dare you assume such a thing?
Well, I mean, I am under that assumption. I'm gonna say that we've just quickly go over the little bits of housekeeping that we said at the start. Again, at the end, for anybody that's tuned in the interim. So one thing that I have suggested is that each of us council members are going to introduce at least one secret thing to the world, be that an item or a person or a location or some combination thereof, that is not going to be listed in the Obsidian notes that show up on stream at all times. More than likely it's going to go into a Google Doc document that I'm going to keep private and secret, and it will be something that will show up for the other council members to encounter as secrets, and for the players, if they are watching, to encounter as secrets while they are playing in the Tamrinor setting. So that is one thing that I have we have discussed and we are going to be adding. Another thing is we are going to aim, we have the target of getting a campaign setting, getting this campaign setting, not just any old campaign setting, this particular one that we've been focusing on. I want to get a deadline. I wanted to put a deadline in place so that we don't just keep going and going and going, because if we didn't have a deadline, we could just keep going and going. And so putting in a deadline, I feel it will hopefully drive us to focus on the number of sessions that we have left and what we need to discuss in them. So one thing is we're going to aim to start some of the homebrew and rule tweaks playtests using one-shots. Looking to start doing that, probably not on stream, but maybe as something that we record for YouTube. starting in sort of June, July time, in the summertime. And then ideally what we want is we want the Tamrinor setting to be ready for games to begin in it at the start of January 2025. Not necessarily saying immediately at the start of January 2025 we are going to be starting games in this setting.
But we want to be able to if we wanted to.
But we want to be able to if we want to. And also by that point, you know, hopefully we will be closing in on the end of Rime of the Frostmaiden. We'll be closing in on the end, if not already have completed the Golden Tooth's current adventures in the Shattered Obelisk. And with both of those games finishing, and, you know, at least a level or two completed on Dungeon of the Mad Mage in that time, those games, the next games for those players will take place in Tamrinor, is the intent. So ideally we're going to have 11 more sessions before we want to have the council wrapped up and the campaign setting ready for players to appear in it.
Yeah. And that is going to be a lot of fun when we get everything going.
So that's a thing. And by no means does that mean that at that point the campaign setting will be set in stone and finished. We probably won't continue to have regular council sessions after that point, but the campaign setting will still be a fluid thing that evolves as we introduce new people into it and new characters and new things.
I think by that point we'll probably still be having these little meetings, but I don't think we're going to be recording them.
Yeah, probably not.
Why would we want to give everything away?
Yeah.
Why we want to get the mechanics and basic history down first so we can do the rest of it later. That's the fun stuff.
So one of the things that I'm going to, we have one session planned at the moment, which is the next session, which is which is happening in February. Just checking the date. February the 10th is the next council session. And what we have discussed is inviting Tanny back in to continue the drawing they started of Novalee, the goddess of love. So potentially that is a session that we should look at getting, potentially add other artists to, and have other art being done of things notable to the thing, notable to the setting. And then we need to think about what needs to be done before we can play games in it. That's not a thing for us to discuss here and now, but throwing it to the group. What are the deadliney things? What are the things that need to be done? Think about that, and we'll discuss that on Discord between sessions.
Yeah.
Now, however, I'm going to turn to the camera and I'm going to say thank you guys in the chat so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that follow button. It's a great way for you guys to know when we go live, a completely free way that you can support us on the channel. It really does mean a lot to us. And hopefully it will help with putting some interesting things behind me in this new very white space that I'm in. we have a Discord that you can join where you can chat with us about the games that we're playing and the things that we're doing and all of that good stuff. What have we been discussing on there today? I mean, other than the fact that I finally made the announcement that I'd moved.
I think we're celebrating that, really.
I don't have a Scrooge McDuck pool of dice. We've been discussing several people's current playthroughs of Baldur's Gate and their character. They're interacting with some new characters that are exciting them for the first time as much as they excited the rest of us when we first encountered them. I'm not the dice goblin of the group. It's Tanny's the dice goblin of the group.
That's true.
It's accurate. We also have a YouTube channel that you can go to catch all of our previous streams and videos and things up on there. And Geoff, I know, is sort of leading the charge to get us some more exclusive content going up on the YouTube channel as well. So watch a space very similar to this one for details of that. And we have a website. That's the thing. It's a website that we have, www.finalbossfight.co.uk. It has all of our videos, all of our written content, our podcasts, where you can hear previous D&D adventures up on the podcast, as well as that other game I can't pronounce at the moment, apparently. Games are up on the podcast network, as well as links to the Discord and the YouTube are there as well. And we're going to go over now to the credit screen, where I am joined by an interesting group of characters, as I've got Carrion, Snicket, and Ben's gift giver character.
What do you know? Apparently I'm still here and talking. You can see it.
And we talk about the streams that are coming up this week. Tomorrow night, over on, here, in this space, you will find the continuation of Dungeon of the Mad Mage as the group are now encountering Willow's Wood, the 5th level of the dungeon. So stay tuned for that. The group are slowly pulling themselves back together again after Vasin's side quest to his draconic temple. On Monday, Angel loves Yakuza 0. Ben, are you doing any Stardew this week?
I might be. I'm going to be trying to get back into doing a lot of this side of things. So I know that it's still up on both. So obviously Monday and Wednesday, I will be trying to get something going. I will be trying to get plans going. I'll be trying to get things going.
So Ben's going to try and do some Stardew this Monday, and then on the FBF channel on Monday night, the Light of Xarixus epilogue is going to take place. We're going to have a little finale event for the group as we deal with the close of their storyline. Whether that's a gentle farewell or a burning everything down, we'll see how that goes. On Wednesday night, Angel is going to be playing Yakuza 0, Ben's going to be doing some Stardew Valley, and on the FBF channel, we're going to be doing some D&D, Minecraft. That's the game we're going to be doing on Wednesday. FBF Craft V3 is going to continue with our random modded game. This time we're going to continue working, I think, on mob spawning and trying to get some useful items out of the mob spawner. On Thursday, Angel's going to be playing some more Yakuza 0. On Friday, the Shattered Obelisk continues. This time, the Golden Tooth are making the journey from Tribor to Neverwinter to visit Calderak's Grey Castle's parents. So stay tuned for that. And then on Saturday next week, it is the FBF quiz night, where we have a round on Stanley Kubrick films, and then I've currently got 2 rounds wrapping up 2023 as I go over the weird news stories and media stories, as well as the unusual scientific discoveries of the year 2023. And then a fourth round that I need to write at some point between now and then. So stay tuned for all of those good things. But for now, we are going to do a little raid. Who is around for us to raid into? Let us send you over. Let's continue the role-playing love and send you over to Carpe DM Live, who is doing some D&D.
Never heard of it.
We'll see you guys again real soon. For now, so long, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.